What is happening, guys and girls? Acrinator here, and welcome to the 10th episode of the Counting Pixelated Sheep podcast. There's a sheep at the end there. Shut up, John. I am joined, as always, by my partner in crime and co-host for this podcast, Sirjohnmac I.
Hey!
And today we have 4 new articles for you, the order of which will be as follows. Game devs should never rush out games. Foot-operated controller developed for amputees. Valve isn't allowing CSGO gifting during summer sale. And game dev says to pirate their game rather than buying from G2A. So with that being said, let's get straight into the first article, which is the game dev should never rush out games. This will be a relatively short article to go over because the article in question is more of like a opinion piece, where more or less the author of the article says rushing out games in like the crunch period, which I think got a little bit of publicity a few months back when Jim Sterling put out an episode of the Jimquisition saying like why the crunch period is stupid, and there was like some relatively large I forget the name of the person, but relatively large game dev or like executive in the game industry saying like why it's justified, like you do your best work. Like no, not when you're sleep deprived and aren't allowed to do anything like outside of the studio for like weeks. Do you remember what that was? I don't know. I'll probably link to that episode of the Jimquisition. If you couldn't tell, this isn't scripted.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Other than like, these are the articles we're going to talk about, even though we don't really talk about it beforehand, besides saying like, this article's interesting, because we try not to talk about it too much.
Dude, that would be like way too much work, like scripting an hour-long podcast for 2 people.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
God.
no.
I have a hard enough time editing out the all the breaths in like my actually scripted stuff in Audacity. It sounds wonderful, usually. Anyways, let's get back on topic.
Yeah, video games.
Yeah, video games. So this article actually, the one reason I decided to not skip over it and actually talk about it was because it actually gave a decent number of examples, relatively relevant examples of like rushed games that turned out less than satisfactory, at least in certain aspects. Maybe if the overall game was good, like the Mighty Number 9, that one I think is the most infamous like rushed game. It's like, I didn't really follow that game and I don't really know what it's supposed to be, but I've seen what it is currently and it's like, this doesn't even look like a game. It looks like a tech demo.
Yeah, I think the entire thing about Mighty Number 9 was, 1, kickstarted, of course, 2, it's supposed to be like a Mega Man thing, and 3, it's spearheaded by like the main developer designer behind Mega Man, like the original ones, I think.
Yeah, I'll have to take your word for it. I didn't really follow it, but I've seen people rag on Mighty Number 9 before, and I've seen like what the game has to offer currently, and it literally just looks like a tech demo. There's like a few things that you can ragdolize, like a few soda cans. I think there's like wasn't there a glitch rather? I don't know if they fixed it or not, where if you like kicked something the right way, it would just like multiply infinitely.
That sounds fun. I didn't
It's like
hear about that.
I think it's the first Deathly Hallows for Harry Potter when they go into, I think it's Beatrix's vault. I have not seen those movies in forever, although I do love them. Where they like touch something and it just keeps multiplying. It's like infinite gold. I think it was something like that. I don't know if it was like infinite, but it definitely like you kicked the soda can and like it multiplied into 16 or something because there was something wrong with the physics. Whereas like instead of going over there for kicking, it like went.
I am so curious as to what kind of code has to go wrong for that to even happen. Like, for that to even be a possibility.
I've seen some pretty funky things with code. My college roommate, American Sauce, I did a Hearthstone video with him, like, God, a year and a half ago, I think? Yeah, about a year and a half ago. But anyways, he's a computer science major. And he's done like some basic little projects where it's sort of like OSU, I guess. That's like the best way to describe it. It's not quite like OSU, but it's like a clicker where you gotta click into a certain thing. You gotta make a certain shape fit within 3 or 4 or whatnot. He usually does the triangle for certain parameters. And like when he messes up the code, it's really funny because he was messing around with like the colors of the triangle, so that would switch colors. It was basically like neon flashing colors. It was like epilepsy simulator is what I called it. It was really cool that he was able to do that. You know, like I sort of understand the basics of code, but more or less how I understand the concepts, not the actual code itself. Whereas he's a lot smarter in that field than me. Obviously, he's going to college for that. Whereas I'm doing like biological stuff. But one time he messed up one line of code where instead of just the triangle flashing neon colors, it was the entire window. So I was like, oh my god.
Oh, that's fun.
Technically, the triangle is still there, but it was changing colors the exact same amount as like the background. So it was like crazy, and it blended in perfectly. But technically you could see the circles where the triangles parameters were supposed to go, and like whenever you clicked on them 3 times to make the triangle perfect, so into the parameters, it would switch, you know, it would go to the next randomized set. So I mean, like, I could certainly see, like, obviously that's, you know, college students, a random testing, I guess, random, like, just messing around with whatever program he was using. I think it was C++, but I'm not really sure. Can't differentiate. I know Java, and the others just sort of blend into one for me, because I don't really mess around with those. But, you know, I mean, he messed up coding, and he was taking his time. Like, he had to be like 10 hours over the course of a week on that, like whenever he was done studying. And he messed up, so you can imagine like what sort of mess up they could do with if they rush it out. Some other games that they have examples of, because I don't want to just like dwell on Mighty Number 9, is like Street Fighter V. I remember that had a big controversy when it first came out, where like the multiplayer wasn't even working, half of the campaign wasn't working, you couldn't play certain characters, and I remember a lot of people were pissed about that.
Was that the one that had like the microtransactions for the easy fatalities, or
no, that's Mortal Kombat.
That's Mortal Kombat.
Street Fighter, I remember it was so bad, and even says here that the company Capcom apologized for like how bad it was released into like the public in that state. And then another example, which I kind of find funny that they bring this up, but it is true, is Fallout 4 had the same problem. It's like, you know, all these little glitches, but let's be honest here, every Bethesda game has those glitches.
Yeah, like, I'm not sure if Bethesda game being rushed is the reason that it's bad.
Yeah.
Because if it was rushed, then maybe some of those glitches would get fixed eventually, but...
A little Skyrim.
Yeah, it's almost like they're using a really outdated engine that isn't meant for this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's see. They did have some explanation as to why they like said it might be rushed, but at the same time it wasn't. It was like, let's see. Fallout 4 had the same problem while the announcement of the game at E3 2015 was staggering enough. The very near release date threw everyone into a tizzy. How they had managed to keep the game secret for so long, only to release it so soon. So I can sort of understand that, but who knows like how done the game was when they announced it last year at E3. You know, was it... I mean, I don't recall them having like this big extensive like beta that you could look at, you know, or even a beta to begin with. I think they just had like, you know, trailers, and that usually doesn't indicate very much. I don't believe there was a playable game, was there?
I don't think there was a playable game, but I'm almost sure there was some like gameplay shown, like of the settlement building and stuff like that.
Yeah. Personally, I don't follow Fallout. I like the Elder Scrolls better. It's basically like, do you like futuristic or medieval? I prefer medieval, so I don't really follow Fallout.
Yeah.
I was hoping more for a Elder Scrolls 6 announcement, although they have said that they're working on it. I guess, so that's next best thing.
I mean, to be honest, like, if a game developer can keep it under wraps and like have the announcement like a couple months before the release, I don't mind that.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not like because it's rushed or something like that, then
yeah, it's not completely like entirely flawed logic for the author to say that, though. Like, you know, it was like under wraps for so long, and then they finally announce it, and then it's like released seemingly very quick.
Yeah.
And I do recall that the first major patch of Fallout did fix like a lot of bad bugs. I do remember hearing about that. And then again, I think that's the first patch of every Bethesda game. I think that's just how the way Bethesda works, but it's not flawed logic what they're using here. It does flow, what the author is saying here, so I can understand what they're saying. And more or less, this article was trying to justify the new Legend of Zelda game for Nintendo, saying like, this is why I think it's okay that they're taking their time. I think a good game that I could come up with that wasn't like listed in here would be like World of Warcraft, you know, Blizzard's old mentality. I don't think they necessarily follow this word for word, but it's like Torbjorn in Overwatch even has a statement saying like, completion date when it's done, and it's like that's a joke on at least Blizzard's old credo. I don't know if they follow that to the T anymore, especially with Warlords, because like Warlords took a long time to come out, but it didn't really feel finished, so I think they tried too much at once. Like they would have needed a lot more time to get Warlords working the way people had expected it to, compared to I think Legion, where they kind of learned like not to overreach like they did. So I think that's a good example. I feel like Warlords was probably rushed, and I think most people can probably agree with me to a degree that that's part of the problem with Warlords. It's like, with what they tried to do, they probably should have had more filler patches in Pandaria just to, you know, hold us over, and Warlords might have been coming out like last year instead of 2 years ago. 2.5 years ago. Damn. It's been out for a while. Or 2.5 years? No, it's been a year and a half. Regardless, didn't you say you had an example, or is that a different article that you said you had something to talk about? I believe it was this one that you said you had something, but you didn't want to talk about it beforehand unless we decided we were going to talk about it.
I think just having like some release date that they try to set in stone is inherently flawed.
Yeah. At least so far, you know, if you're like still working on some of the major stuff in the game, like if you have the game done, then, you know, set it off in a few months in advance, then say like, you know, maybe, I mean, I get the point, like investors invest in like, you know, or a company invests in like the production of a game and they want it to be done at some point. Like you can't have room for too much perfectionism, but like make sure a game is actually done if it really does take that much time to make a better product. I think the vast majority of people, like 90% of people, would be happier saying, you know, I'm willing to wait. Like I want to play a better game more than to play a shitty game.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's fair to say the majority of people out there would say that. Obviously there'll be those people that are, I don't know, so used to a new COD coming out every year. Like a new year, a new game.
Assassin's Creed.
God, and the bugs in those never get fixed.
Yeah.
I had to stop playing Assassin's Creed 2 just because there was this one bug where like there's a guy yelling on top of a tower, and anyone who's played Assassin's Creed 2 on Steam probably knows what I'm talking about, where like if you alert the guards, normally the guy's just supposed to yell and the guards attack you, but the guy disappears and the guards don't attack you, and you have to restart the entire thing because the guy disappears and he does not come back. It's so annoying. It's like you can be as stealthy as you want, but if you alert the guards once, he's gone. He's out of there. And it's so stupid, and I just got so pissed. I was like, you know what? No. I can't do this. It sucks, too, because I was having fun with it.
Yeah.
Like, it is a good game. Speaking of which, I remember trying Black Flag, but then I was like, maybe I should try 2, and then I uninstalled Black Flag for the time being because I wanted to save space on my computer. And then I just uninstalled 2 because I was like, screw it. Now, I should probably try Black Flag now.
Dude, seriously, like, with your 950?
Oh, yeah. No, literally the day before filming this, which was on Sunday, whenever this comes out, between, like, well, definitely not Monday, between, like, Tuesday and Thursday, probably. Like, I got a graphics card, 950. What is it? Oh, I actually have the box in reach. This thing.
Ooh.
I don't know if it shows up on webcam. But I got that. Actually, my old 520 NVIDIA is in that box. It's so tiny in the bag that the 950 came in. Thing's a fucking beast. I can finally play Overwatch without the freaking resolution downscaling. Fucking hated that. Yeah. It's like, the game is really badly optimized, Overwatch. Because I could play games like, you know, Borderlands, the pre-sequel, and a lot of games that are just as stylized, but optimized better. I get that Blizzard wanted to have this thing of like, I don't know, they wanted people to play the game a certain way, but it's like I feel like you have to put that aside when you realize that not everyone is running a beast of a machine. You know, I wouldn't say I'm running a beast of a machine, but I definitely have a beast of a graphics card now. You know, later in the, probably during this video, you'll probably see above whenever I talk about Overwatch, it'll be Overwatch footage going on. You'll see it's much prettier than before, although before it wasn't terrible. I could tell what's going on, but like I said many times before, I think in the last podcast as well, like it's not pretty. Now it is.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's really all I have for this article. Do you have anything else you want to add, John?
Nada.
Just really wanted to. It was in words. It was an interesting bit. Anyways, on to the second article, which is the foot-operated controller for video games. So basically, this, I don't know if it was an engineering company. No, I think it was just a few engineering students or professors or TAs or something at Johns Hopkins University developed a controller for, I believe, yeah, it has to be PC games, because it says they've used this controller to play a variety of games, including Counter-Strike, Fallout 4, and World of Warcraft, and we definitely know that WoW is not on console. I don't believe Counter-Strike is on console either, is it? I don't think so.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah. But anyway, basically this, the person they made it for, which I believe is also a person who worked on it, although I don't recall. But this guy, regardless who the controller is made for, whether he worked on it or not, lost both of his hands to a meningitis infection, and he was an avid gamer and could no longer use the traditional controller since he, you know, only had his feet. I don't know how much of his arms, probably just most of it, if it's just his hands that he lost, like down to the wrist. So they made these feet controllers, which look pretty funky with the picture that's shown. I don't know if that's like a prototype or if that's the actual thing, but let's see. Yeah, one of the guys who worked on the device said, next to our hands, our feet are probably the most dexterous part of our body. I don't know if that's entirely true, because I know the tongue is pretty dexterous as well. Like, that's able to move a lot. But either way, this project won a $7,500 grand prize in the 2016 Intel Cornell Cup, which I'm assuming is some sort of invention convention. Where like they go head to head, and this is really cool. I mean, it's obviously for video games what they designed it for, but it has a lot more practical uses. You know, it allows people, you know, with amputations to more simply just use a computer.
Yeah.
You know, instead of there's that really old video of the guy who, you know, was born without hands, but he does play games with like his feet with the mouse and the keyboard. But it's like, I can imagine if you manage to get this type of controller down, that it's pretty decent. The interesting thing that I found, at least, was that they surveyed people. They basically showed two clips of, I believe, the same game. It wouldn't make sense if it wasn't. One person just playing with a normal controller, and the guy playing with the feet controls, which I don't believe. Yeah, I don't believe they have a special name for it. Yeah, I don't see a special name. Anyways, out of the survey, 51 people responded, and they didn't say, this is one thing about the survey, it didn't say what kind of people, like if they were searching for gamers who could spot it, or just random people off the street. You know, I think John said before, recording, joking, out of the 51 senior citizens that we took of the survey. But anyways, out of the 51 people, with no like background to who those people are, who responded to the survey, 81% failed to identify the gear-controlled player, which, if I just do the math right now, because I was too lazy to do it before, so that's 51 times 0.81, that's 41.31, so let's just say like 42 people failed to identify the person using the traditional controller compared to the, you know, the foot controller. And again, that might be a bit skewed if they didn't use gamers only for that survey, because I feel like a gamer, even someone like me who traditionally does mouse and keyboard, would probably be able to pick out the person who, you know, is playing with a foot control. But then again, how accurate is this? How easy is it to control with your feet? I mean, obviously the feet are dexterous, but a different kind of dexterous than the hand. I don't know. Do you have anything to say about this?
I'm just gonna add that I feel like something that can help out a lot with stuff like this is kind of the advent of 3D printing, which I can only imagine will help, like, pretty much anyone with any kind of disability, essentially.
Yeah.
Custom make a controller like this.
Yeah. I don't... Did the article say how they made it? Maybe not if they want a... I mean, it looks like foam padding with... Well, it looks like the orthopedic gels. I actually have them in my shoes because my feet are like flat as a freaking board. Or at least they were. I don't know anymore. But it looks like there's definitely some calibration, like shock sensors, you know what I mean? I'm not sure if there's individual buttons like you could touch with your toes. It doesn't look like it, but it looks like there's different sort of shock things. Now, obviously, there's 2 of them, so there's different combinations that you could do. Did this say how many? Yeah, up here it says. Okay, it's Game Enhancing Augmented Reality, or Gear. That's the name of the controller, so it does have a name. Can stimulate 8 buttons in its most basic setup, or up to 20 buttons with some practice. So I can imagine it would take a little bit of practice, especially for a game like World of Warcraft. Actually, would 20 buttons be enough for all the keybinds? I guess for the main bar, someone like me who uses the floating action bars, that wouldn't really work.
Yeah.
Because I usually use a combination of like the button clicking for the main attacks and like the cooldowns that take a while to activate. I'll use my mouse for that, so it's like a weird combination of the two, and I'll usually like run around with my mouse if like in raiding or whatnot, because that's usually the most button intensive thing. I can imagine if you're just questing and not doing anything too intensive in World of Warcraft, then you could probably, you know, if you get into dungeons and raids and PvP, hell no, not PvP, you probably definitely couldn't do that.
Well, I was gonna make the joke that you'll have to play a hunter, but
yeah, pretty much. That's although I will say that there is some finesse to hunter PvP. I mean, a little bit. You gotta know when to disengage. That's about it. I wonder how the movement would work. Like, how would you be able to basically run and kite? Basically, is what I'm saying. Would you be able to like kite in a game like WoW or even Fallout 4? I don't think you can kite in Counter-Strike. I mean, that'd be impressive if you could. Some extreme psychological bullshit going on there.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been done.
Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. I don't know. There actually is a YouTube video, and I haven't watched it yet. Probably not going to link it above because I don't want to get the copyright. Whatever. Even though I don't monetize the videos, I don't like showing the entire videos of like other stuff. I'll usually show like a screenshot, if anything. I'll definitely link that below, though, if you want to see it. Although it is shown in the article, so I might not, just because it's in the article. So if you're curious, so just go to the article in the first place.
Yeah, it's
sort of a catch-all there. I don't know. That's really all I have to say about this article. If you have anything else,
I'm good to move on.
All right. The next article, which is actually pretty interesting, and I don't really have too much of a rebuttal for it, which is the Valve shuts down the ability to gift CSGO during the summer sale. This I found interesting at first because I was like, huh, do they really have the right to do that? And then I was like, well, it is their platform, and it is their game. So, and like, even if it's not their platform, you know, another developer, I'd say they do have the right to do this because it is their intellectual property. And their justification is kind of hard to argue, at least for me. Like, they have a decent point. It's a very, very short article. It's like 4 paragraphs in a line. Let's see. CSGO. So here's like the official statement. CSGO will not be giftable during the sale. Our goal with sales is to grow the community, and historically during sales, the new users that stick around are mainly the ones that purchase copies for themselves. This is interesting. It will also partially prevent cheaters and trolls from stacking inventories full of gifts to use later. The lazy ones will be put off by the need to create individual accounts to buy the game. And in all honesty, that's a relatively well thought out and complex strategy to keep the CSGO community sane, I guess?
relatively Smurf-free.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know how the community goes because I don't usually like pure first-person shooters. There has to be something there for me, like first-person shooters that I actually do play, like Overwatch. I'm just saying that so that I can get more footage up top, or like Tribes Ascend, or like TF2, stuff like that. It has to have a gimmick to it, or in like Borderlands case, be like an FPS RPG, stuff like that. It has to have something else than just being an FPS to get me drawn in. So I can't really say anything about CS:GO.
Hmm.
Do you play CS:GO, John?
I've played a little bit, but I am so casual that I don't play like the actual CS:GO game mode. I just play TDM with infinite respawns.
Oh.
Because I don't like sitting and watching my teammates walk around corners for 5 hours.
Fair enough. Yeah, that'd probably be me too. Just find like the cheapest game mode and play the hell out of that. That's more or less what I did with Halo 3 back in the day. And I didn't actually own an Xbox or Halo. I just played it on friends, and usually we just had like infinite, unlimited lives, unlimited timer. Just like go at it with like energy swords and gravity hammers because that was what was fun. We didn't care about like being the best. We just wanted to find these like YouTube worthy moments and then never share them for some reason.
Because no one had a capture card.
Yeah. Well, I believe we did upload a few of them to like this is bringing back memories, the like community thing where you could like, I forget what it was called, but you could post like 5 or 6 screenshots and or videos to your account, and then it would just like, people with capture cards, I guess, would be able to like capture those and put them on YouTube for like these brilliant moments. And I think the community itself would even like highlight some of the better ones you could look at, and some of them were just beautiful. And I think one time we got featured, but it was like it was like the least popular of like all of them because it was funny, but it was like, hit someone with a gravity hammer and go flying across the map, and you see that a million times.
Yeah.
Plus it was like pre-constructed for that kind of thing, so I don't know. It was funny though. But yeah, I don't really have a rebuttal to this. Like at first I was like, do they really have should they do that? Like obviously they have the right to, it's their game like I said before, but like should they? Is that a smart move? And after hearing their justification, I can't find a good rebuttal. It's like fair enough. They proved their point, at least in my eyes. Do you I don't know, do you agree with their statement, John, or do you think like they should allow it, if someone wants to buy it for someone else, should they be able to?
I mean, it would always be nice just to have the extra convenience.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's also not like the game's breaking the bank. It's under $10 on sale.
Yeah, it says currently $7.50 from a normal price of $15.
Like, the skins in those games go for like hundreds of dollars. So,
I mean, you sold that green hat from TF2 for like $200.
That was awesome.
He was so excited. It was really funny. Like he was, like I had just got TF2 at that point, and he's like trying to explain it to me, and I'm like, someone paid fucking $200 for a goddamn green party hat.
It was like some.
I mean, there's a sucker for everything, I guess.
I forget the name of it. It was like Team Commander or something like that. It was this like red beret looking hat, and it had some effect on it that it was apparently valuable, or made it valuable. I mean,
hell, go for it.
I pretty much didn't have to like add any Steam funds or anything for the rest of the year. It was great.
If only. You get so lucky with that sort of shit. Like, he has like, on WoW, he got like the Easter mount from like the goddamn Easter egg, which is like a 0.01% drop rate or some shit like that. He has Rivendare's Charger. I'm surprised he doesn't have like the fucking Fiery Warhorse. Like, I think that's still the rarest mount in the game, I think.
Dude, the
that or the
Easter
Raven
one.
The Easter one was funny. Oh, and he also has the sea turtle from like one fishing trip, because when we were low level before Northrend, Northrend was out, it was during Wrath. We used to go to Valiant's Keep and Valgard when we were technically too low level to go to Northrend. and quests, and we would fish, and that was just funny because we would just like talk in the old WoW voice chat and fish, and I would always get those pearls that I could sell for quite a bit. So my old warrior, my first character ever, who I still have, I gotta get him up to level cap. Anyways, I would always get those pearls, so I had like a lot more gold than a level like 30 should have had, and then he got the fucking like turtle mount. It's like, of the amount of fishing I've done in Northrend, not for that amount, but just like to level up my fishing, because I usually just go to Northrend to level up my fishing. It's like, god damn it. I literally brought my warriors fishing from like 0 to like 600 in Northrend, and I never saw hide nor hair of that. Though I did get a lot of those really expensive pearls. Yeah, fair trade, I guess. I have quite a few, not incredibly rare mounts, but I have a few mounts that I'm proud of. I got my core hound. I got the one that's not really skilled to get, but it's like the green dread raven from Tanan Jungle. That one I love. It's such a cool looking mount. It doesn't take any skill to get. It's just like grinding out apexes, but I love the way it looks. It was so worth it. And then afterwards I was like, fuck, I have no other goals for this game right now. Proceeded to play Ion for like a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the like non-gifting, I feel like at worst it's a slight inconvenience.
Yeah.
And
if someone really wants to gift it, it's like $15 when the sale's over, you know?
Yeah.
Actually, what would be interesting is if, well, this would be really hard to justify. I was gonna say, like, if you could gift it right now, but it had to be at $15, that would be hard to justify.
Yeah.
Because, like, okay, dude, just fucking buy it yourself.
Yeah.
Like, if you really want to gift it to someone that bad, just send them the money, and they can get the game. I guess is the moral of this little article. I don't know. Yeah, it's funny. The first 3 articles, there's not really much to talk about. Although I think we did talk quite a bit about the first article, which I was not expecting. And then we've been sidetracked a lot, which I don't care about. You know, however long the podcast needs to be, it'll be. Although I don't think anything will ever beat the very first episode where we had no idea what the fuck we were doing, and we just talked about WoW Legion for like 2 hours. Correction, I talked about WoW Legion for 2 hours.
Yeah, that was really fun.
My voice was dead. Plus, we did that at like 11 at night, which actually we're doing this right now at 11 at night, but it's a lot less.
It's less 11 at night.
It's not 2 hours, it's like 40 minutes, and we're almost done. I want to move on to the last article.
Yeah.
Okay, the last article, which is basically a game dev saying, don't buy my game from shady resellers, like from G2A. Torrent it. If you really want to play it that badly and you don't want to pay for it, just torrent it. I'll even give you the link. Like, the exact quote is, torrent my game instead of supporting shady resellers. I'll even give you the link. And the dev is for... Who the fuck is the dev?
It
Tiny
was
Build.
Yeah, Tiny Build.
I have no idea what they did. Who's Tiny... Or, yeah, like, what kind of games they have.
They've made a bunch
Tiny
of different
Build.
stuff. Speedrunners, Punch Club, other ones.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of... let's see. Punch Club, Dungeon Lot Shattered Land, Road to Valhalla. I believe I've heard of that one. Party Hard, I've definitely heard of that one. Lovely Planet, I've heard of that one. Boyd, I believe I've heard of that one. Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor. Okay. So a lot of, like... Not so
A lot of
much-
indie games.
Are they indie games? Yeah, fair enough.
I'd call them indie games.
Some form of, like, indie-ish. At the very least, indie-inspired games. Let's see. Yeah, the exact quote from the developer is, I'm a game developer with a game on Steam, and please just torrent my game instead of supporting shady resellers. I'll even give you the download link, which I already said before. I understand people aren't always able to or willing to pay full price for a game, but seeing people play my game is the most important thing to me. Just torrent it instead of putting money in the wrong hands. So basically, I don't really understand the problem too much. Like, I did read the entire article, but I still don't quite understand it. Like, I know G2A, and apparently some resellers on G2A will get access to fraudulent keys, and they'll use the money they save to sell the game at a much lower price than like what the dev would. And I don't believe this. I don't think, because they're still buying fraudulent keys, would that mean that the tiny build is still getting money?
Well, here's how I heard it explained, is that scammers will, from various methods, gain access to credit cards.
Yep, they did mention that in the article. So, I mean, like, technically, by that explanation, it sounds to me like the game devs are still getting paid. Like, they're not losing profit, but they're certainly not okay with the ethics of this.
Well, here's the thing, is that a lot of the time, if not, like, all of the time, the devs aren't getting paid. And in fact, they're getting chargeback fees, because when the person discovers that their credit card was stolen...
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but I can imagine a large amount of people probably don't do that. A lot of them would probably just, like, shut out the credit card. I mean, like, not everyone is going to realize that or whatnot, you know? I mean, it's certainly, like, don't get the wrong idea of what I'm saying here. Like, good on the devs for going against this. It's just, I guess, weird to think that this is, like, on the top priority list of a dev. But I guess, you know, someone has to say it. And, like, good on Tiny Build for doing that.
Yeah.
And there was also another dev. We also spoke to the CEO of Tryon Worlds, who talked about how many resources the company has to devote to tackling this kind of fraud. And I believe that's a separate article, which I'm not going to go into. I'll probably link it below. And then they reached out to G2A for a comment, but they didn't respond. Some of the larger games that were being sold on G2A for through this kind of, I guess, scam is the best way to describe it, is like Counter-Strike, Overwatch, Dota, and Hearthstone, which I can imagine Dota and Hearthstone are the microtransactions rather than the game itself. Like, I have a G2A account, but that was like, I wanted to see what it was, and you couldn't really find out what the hell it was besides creating an account. So I like made an account, saw what it was, I was like, none of this interests me, so I just like deactivated it. Yeah. But it's like one of the big things I saw on there, because I think it realized that I had Hearthstone installed. It was like, Hearthstone packs for a lot less. You know, it was like a lot less. How they do that, I have no idea, but they did it somehow. You know, like how you can buy Hearthstone packs through anything but Hearthstone is kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem right. It feels like a money sink where you're going to be like, shit, where's my packs? I spent like $50.
Yeah. I've only bought 2 things from G2A. Technically 11 things, but only 2 things.
Like bundles, you mean?
Like XCOM, like the original one. This was like after the second one came out, and it was really cheap anyway. And like a pack of 10 random keys that were all games that I had never heard of, and were all like mixed or mostly negative on Steam.
See, that's why I don't bother with bundles for the most part, unless I know unless I know and want everything in the bundle.
Yeah.
It's like, because I don't want to have these random games it's like I'm never going to touch. Like Bad Rats and Gary's Mod, which I don't dislike Gary's Mod, I just never fucking play it, which is funny because Sirjohnmac gifted both of those to me, because there's like, Bad Rats, he got from me very, very early after I got Steam, because he's like, I believe his message was like, it's a must. It's like a trial for initiation for Steam.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure, it's funny because Bad Rats is that like trial of initiation for everyone on Steam. And then Gary's Mod, because it was like 19 cents and he wanted to play with me, I got on for like, how many hours do I have on, how many minutes do I have, I should say, on Gary's Mod. Let me search it. 62 minutes. That's more than I thought.
Dude, it's always more than you think with Gary's Mod.
I didn't do anything. I ran around while you tried to explain things.
Exactly, man. That's where they get you.
Your friends.
But, yeah, I mean, like, even if G2A doesn't, like, know that they're buying fraudulent keys, they've made a system in which it's rewarded.
Yeah.
And if they don't have a way to shut that whole thing down, then they're really a drain on the industry, honestly.
Is it possible, like, I don't really know how this whole fraudulent key thing, like, I've heard of this before, but I've never really, like, looked into it, because it's not something that really affects me. I like to buy the games, like, from the source, or from Steam, or, you know, from, like, a more reputable source than G2A, and I definitely don't trust G2A to buy anything off of. But, like, is it possible for, like, Steam or other platforms to, like, shut down a fraudulent key, so that if you, like, bought a key and then it's later detected to be fraudulent, that you, like, lose access to that game, so that your money is, like, gone as a buyer?
I believe that actually did happen to one game. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Because it seems like that could definitely happen if it's a game with, like, the right network. Like, if it's a single-player only game, like, you know, RPG or something like that, I can imagine it's a little bit harder to figure out, because once you have it downloaded, there's necessarily no way to like, figure out who and who doesn't have it, you know, compared to, like, an online game where I can imagine it might be a bit easier to find someone who, like, torrents it or something like that. Although that's actually one thing, like, the big thing that I found interesting about this article, because, like I said, I don't really have too much knowledge about this, like, fraudulent key thing, but the fact that this dev was, like, so much of the saying, like, I would so much rather you pirate my game than buy these fraudulent keys. Like, that problem is so much less evil than this other one. And that's very interesting to me, because obviously piracy is something that is a bit more prevalent, like, in the mainstream gaming media, where it's like, you know, this is evil, whereas fraudulent keys you don't hear too much about, because it's such a weird and hard thing to track, I guess.
It's such a weird weird world in which, like, piracy is the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
Like, we have piracy where it costs, where the dev doesn't get anything, but it's better than the G2A option because they don't get, like, credit card chargebacks.
Yeah.
And it's not their servers that people are downloading the game off of.
Although I know, like, PayPal's been doing this a lot with Twitch, where, like, PayPal will not charge chargebacks. Like, it's on the credit card user for the chargeback, like, they get charged, or it's something along those lines. It's basically PayPal changed that more or less because of Twitch and other mediums like that, because people would go in and, you know, I think it was I remember Swipe, was it was doing that? I believe it was Swipe, because I remember that used to be on the donation thing, even though I never really bother with the donations. Like, only recently have I activated donations on Twitch, just because, like, Gaming for Good allows it to be, like, I set it for, I think 90% goes to charity. It's like, I don't really fucking expect anyone to donate to me. I stream, like, twice a year.
Yeah. But yeah, I remember some story of some, like, dumb kid donating, like, thousands of dollars to like, various different Twitch streamers.
That happened like last month or a couple of weeks ago. I remember reading about that and actually seeing videos about it. The kid donated like $20,000, and he wanted to create these, like, ridiculous chargebacks, and PayPal was like, no.
Yeah, and it was, like, off his parents' credit card.
Yeah, this is, like, legitimately a 17, 18-year-old kid. Like, I believe he was, like, 18, 19, actually. I think he wasn't a legal adult, but he was doing it off of his parents' credit card, because, let's be honest, if, you know, John and I are, like, 20, almost 21 now, and later this year we'll be turning 21, and it's like, I still consider myself a kid. You know, I'm definitely, well, I'm in college, so I'm obviously still dependent on my parents, but, you know, like, I definitely feel like if he had his parents' credit card, he was definitely dependent on him. And it's like, how do you explain that? Like, I was trying to be a dick and have chargeback fees for these people that I just wanted to fuck with for, like, hundreds of dollars, and it didn't work, so sorry, I wasted $20,000. It's like, well, there's your college fund.
Yep. Jeez, man.
Puts on the McDonald's hat. Like, I don't know. I remember reading that article and thinking, good on PayPal. Like, I remember reading a few months prior, not just reading, but they had like a big announcement that I got an email for, because I believe I have a PayPal. No, I don't. No, I shut it down. I remember I had one, but then I realized that I didn't need it because I had a debit card, so I shut it down. But I remember before I shut it down, it whatchamacallit, it sent out a message saying like, this is going to happen in a few months. And I was like, damn, that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, apparently, reading a little bit more, like, just off of my own research, and apparently a lot of people have had experiences with their Steam key that they got from G2A being revoked. And it's, like, completely random, because, like I said, G2A doesn't know if they're selling you an actual key or what.
I believe one of the things I did notice on G2A when I, like, before I deactivated my account was, like, there was, like, tiers of, like, trustworthiness. Like, you could rate a seller very highly or very poorly. So it's like, I guess that's something to go off of. Because, like, obviously a really highly rated seller will more than likely, you know, if you're taking, like, the most reputable person on that site, they're probably going to sell you something that's real, you know? You don't have to worry, I guess, to say, but it's like, why even take that chance?
Yeah.
I don't trust people to begin with, so I mean...
I feel like that's the kind of thing where you'll, like, see the game on Steam, it'll be like $10 or something like that. You'll see a highly rated seller, like $7, and then you'll see either a low or unrated seller, and you'll try for like $1, and then you'll try to redeem the key, and it'll be in Russian or something like that, or only region locked to Russia.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's just... The big way to avoid that for, like, the consumer is just get it from the reputable source, you know, get it from Steam, get it from, what's the other really good one? Green Man Gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Green Man, Good Old Gaming, Gamerskate.
Yeah.
Humble Bundle.
Yeah,
those ones.
Or, like, directly from the developer. A lot of developers do sell directly from their sites.
Yeah.
For direct download. I mean, like, it's kind of hard to go wrong with that.
Yeah, and that's especially great because it's generally DRM free.
Yeah. Actually, there is one last little statement I found very interesting by the devs of, I believe it's still Tiny Build, saying this about, like, piracy compared to the fraudulent keys. Like, we believe that piracy isn't all bad. If someone pirated a game, likes it, and tells their friends this game is great, you should try it, those friends who might have never heard of the game might play it and perhaps even buy it. That's good enough for us. We prefer that a gamer pirates a game as opposed to paying G2A for a key, because we feel that G2A and similar marketplaces are facilitating a black market economy, as explained in the Tiny Build article. The article is that started this discussion at Rage Squid. Okay, so this is Rage Squid talking. I don't know who the hell Rage Squid is, but creators of Action Hank. Oh, I've heard of that game. Okay, so this is Rage Squid speaking. This quote right here. Where was I? At Rage Squid, we're not yet partnering with a lot of resellers. However, we are planning on partnering with bundle sites in the future, and we'd like to avoid situations like what happened to Tiny Build. Tiny Build accused G2A of facilitating the sale of $450,000 of fraudulent keys, allowing them to be sold for less than half that price. G2A put out a public statement about the whole thing, and Tiny Build have since responded to that, which is also at the last link. I'll probably put that link below, and I might show it above, but I haven't looked at it. See if it actually shows anything. It's long. I'll put a link to it, but I'm not going to discuss the whole thing. You can imagine T2A is just trying to cover their asses, and Tiny Build is like, this isn't enough. You know, I think that's relatively safe to assume at this point. You know? I mean, like, they said fucking Piracy is better than G2A. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I guess that's really all I have to say. I mean,
the other thing about Piracy is that a lot of people use that as like a stand-in for a demo.
Yeah.
Which I completely get. Not that I would ever.
I do disagree with that, but it's like it's hard to argue with someone. Like, I have heard of people who legitimately will buy a game for that, but it's like, what about the other 10 games that they tried and didn't like, and they're like, whatever. Then again, if they don't like it and they're pirating it, are they really going to play the entire thing through, or are they just going to be like, I got through level 1, I hated it, whatever. But I don't really support either of those methods, but it's like, I guess if the dev had to pick the worst of the two evils, I guess he would obviously choose pirating.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't pirate or endorse it or whatever.
At least with Piracy, it doesn't give the false impression that you're entitled to it and that you, like, bought this with your own money.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's a really big aspect to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you technically did buy it, although it's at a ludicrously low price, I'm assuming. For less than half is what they said. I believe earlier in this article they said something about selling the $450,000 worth of keys for about $200K. That's ridiculously low. I don't know. It's like, I get what you're saying. Definitely. Because at least, like, when you buy a game, you expect to have bought the game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really have much else to say about this. This article just kind of blew me away because it's like, it sort of gave a lot more information about the false key thing, as well as like hearing that the dev even said, like, just in the title, you know, torrent my game, I'll give you the link. That sort of caught my attention. Well detailed article as well. Like, if you're curious about this at all, I definitely recommend reading this article. It has a lot of links to stuff, so you can just, like, go off and figure out, like, what the hell are they talking about? Oh, they linked it. Yeah. Well done article. PC games. Anyways, do you have any words?
I have just, like, another completely separate tangent that has to do with piracy, but it probably doesn't need to be in the podcast.
Yeah, go for it if you feel you need to.
Well, something funny that a developer did, the developer of Game Dev Tycoon put their own game on a pirate site, but it was modified so that after you got to a certain point, your game dev studio would run out of money because your game got pirated. And that was brilliant because, like, it's kind of like taste of your own medicine, and it's also like, hey, this is just a demo for the game.
Yeah. That's actually really funny. Like, how far was that threshold in it? Was it, like, very far, or was it, like, you know, half an hour in or something?
I'm not sure. It was definitely, like, far enough to give you a good impression of the game.
Yeah. That is funny, though. I guess that's just a dev with a great sense of humor.
Yeah.
Is that all you had?
Yeah, that was all.
Okay. So, if you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more like it, maybe even subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. This happens monthly, at the end of every month, usually the last 2 weeks of every month. I believe the one for July is going to happen a bit earlier. It's definitely going to be within the last 2 weeks. What the hell is your face, even?
Oh shoot, you didn't go to the Euro Relay, did you?
No, because I half-screened Skype, and I half-screened OBS, and I half-screened the thing, whatever. He's just slowly. It's like, have you ever watched the podcast before?
Oh, no.
Where was I even? Oh yeah, the podcast for next month. Oh god, did you hear your head? I heard a bang.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, July, John and I are going to be going off to Cape Cod. So that's going from the 20th to the 27th. So yeah, it'll probably come out, like, it's still going to come out when it's promised, which is within the last 2 weeks of the month, but it's going to be a lot earlier. So it's going to be like the week of madness from the 4th to the 8th, because I'm looking at my little calendar now, and then it'll probably be like a week of maybe like a Let's Play or something, but then I'll have to get ready for the podcast because I want to get that out before we go to Cape Cod, because we're getting back on like the 27th, and that's not giving me much time to work on stuff from like, you know, the 28th to the 31st, because that'd be like the 28th recording, and although we're recording this on the night of the 26th, so I got a few days. Anyways, that is the podcast schedule for like this next month, and the usual is like within the last 2 weeks of every month. So, do you have anything else to say, John?
No.
You're so embarrassed.
Kill this damn thing already.
Kill this. Kill it with fire. Be sure to check out my partner in crime and co-host, Sirjohnmac channel. He posts something every now and then. It's usually pretty entertaining, whatever he feels like uploading. Links for my social media and whatnot are in the description below. And as for the comment question, do you have anything that you'd like to discuss about any of the topics we discussed, even the tangents that we went off on? It's, you know, anything's fair game at this point. Just try to keep it constructive. But I think that's sort of a general rule for the channel overall now that it's sort of switched away from Let's Plays and more to like the discussional stuff. Discussional, that's a word now. Anyways, that's all the time we've got for today. So until next time, don't die.